A clay tablet sits in the collections of the Penn Museum in Philadelphia. Catalog number CBS 13532. It is roughly the size of a paperback novel, cracked along one edge, baked hard by the Mesopotamian sun more than 4,000 years ago. Most scholars who work with it focus on one section, the king list, the extraordinary sequence of rulers with impossibly long reigns that stretches back before written history. But there is a second section of this tablet that rarely gets discussed in academic papers. A section that describes a city, not a mythological city. A city with a name, a location, a purpose, and a set of directional markers precise enough that modern researchers have used them to identify a specific region of land still submerged beneath the Persian Gulf. The city is called Eridu, and according to CBS 13532, it existed before the flood. Not a different flood. The flood, the one that appears in every major ancient tradition across Mesopotamia, Anatolia, South Asia, and the Mediterranean. The text does not describe Eridu as a legend or a paradise. It describes it as a functioning administrative center, a city with granaries, a city with a harbor, a city with a ziggurat built to specific measurements and oriented to specific stars. A city the Sumerians believed was the first place humans and gods coexisted on the surface of the earth. What nobody expected was that the directional markers in the tablet would actually work. If you want more investigations like this, ancient texts cross-referenced with satellite data, genetic research, and suppressed archaeological findings, subscribe now. This is the only channel doing this kind of forensic work on the ancient world every week. The Sumerian king list is one of the most studied documents in all of Mesopotamology. It was first translated by Thorkild Jakobsen of the Oriental Institute in 1939, and it revealed something immediately uncomfortable. The list does not begin with Sumer. It begins before Sumer. The opening lines read, "When kingship descended from heaven, kingship was in Eridu." Then it lists 5 cities that preceded the flood: Eridu, Bad Tibera, Larak, Sippar, and Shuruppak. With kings whose reigns are measured in sars, units of 3,600 years each. The first king of Eridu, Alulim, allegedly ruled for 28,800 years. The academic consensus has always been that these numbers are ceremonial. They are symbolic expressions of divine authority, not literal claims about duration, but the geographical data embedded in the same text has never been dismissed so easily because the geographical data checks out. CBS 13532 contains a geographical appendix, directional markers describing Eridu's location relative to river confluences, coastal formations, and star alignments. Dr. Jeffrey Rose of the University of Birmingham published a landmark paper in 2010 in Current Anthropology, mapping ancient habitation sites on the floor of the Persian Gulf using sea-level reconstruction technology. What he found forced a reassessment of where complex civilization first emerged. During the last ice age and its aftermath, the Persian Gulf basin was not a body of water. It was a fertile river valley, a vast plain fed by 4 rivers, the Tigris, Euphrates, Karun, and Wadi Batin, converging at a freshwater lake in the center of the basin. Around 6000 BCE, sea levels rose rapidly. The Persian Gulf flooded. Everything in the basin went underwater within a geological eye blink. The most fertile, most habitable zone in the ancient Near East now sits beneath roughly 40 meters of ocean. The directional markers in CBS 13532 describe Eridu as standing at the place where the 4 waters become one, before meeting the Great Sea. That description matches Rose's paleogeographic reconstruction precisely. The 4 rivers, the central lake, and the coast to the south all align. Rose's conclusion was careful, measured, and still seismic. The Sumerian memory of pre-flood civilization may preserve accurate geographical information about habitation sites now located on the floor of the Persian Gulf. This is not fringe archaeology. Rose's paper appeared in a peer-reviewed journal. His methodology was standard paleoanthropology. He was not arguing for Atlantis. He was arguing that the Sumerians knew where they came from, and their recorded memory of that origin contained real geographical data that still points to the right place 4,000 years later. But CB 13532 contains a second layer that Rose's paper did not fully address. The architectural specifications. The text describes Eridu's central structure as Abiziu, the house of the Abzu. The Abzu in Sumerian cosmology was the underground freshwater ocean beneath the earth. The Abzu at Eridu was not described as a symbolic representation. It was described as a physical structure built over a location where fresh water emerged from the ground. The text specifies its dimensions: a base of 60 by 60 cubits, approximately 30 by 30 meters, rising in 7 stepped levels, oriented toward the rising point of the Pleiades during the spring equinox around 4000 BCE. Archaeologists excavating the site of ancient Eridu in southern Iraq found the remains of a ziggurat complex beneath later construction layers. The earliest stratum, designated Temple Level 1 by excavators Fuad Safar and Seaton Lloyd, dates to the earliest occupation of the site. That foundational temple measures 30 by 30 meters at its base, and it is oriented toward the Pleiades. It was built over a natural freshwater spring that produced fresh water in a region otherwise surrounded by brackish marshland. SEB 13532's specifications for the pre-flood Eridu match the foundational temple at the oldest known archaeological site in Mesopotamia. Either the Sumerians were extraordinarily lucky in their dimensions, or they were rebuilding something from memory. They were reconstructing a drowned city's central monument at the nearest available location, maintaining the original specifications across 6 centuries and 40 meters of ocean. This raises the question nobody in academic circles wants to ask publicly. How did they remember? The Sumerian tradition provides an answer. The texts describe the Apkallu, 7 sages who emerged from the Abzu before the flood, and taught humanity the foundations of civilization. After the flood, the Apkallu returned to continue the work. They are described as carriers of the MES, the fundamental tablets encoding all civilized arts: writing, mathematics, metallurgy, temple construction, kingship. For a long time, the Apkallu were interpreted as entirely mythological. But a different reading is possible. A group of survivors from a pre-flood coastal culture, people who escaped the rising water by moving inland, carrying the accumulated knowledge of a complex society that had just been destroyed, would look to the populations they encountered very much like beings who emerged from the waters bearing impossible knowledge. Their preservation of the drowned city's specifications would appear divine. The genetic record offers partial confirmation. A 2016 study published in Science Analyzing Ancient DNA from Mesopotamian burial sites found an unexpected population influx into the Tigris-Euphrates Delta region from 5,500 to 5,000 BCE. A group with a genetic profile distinct from the existing inland Neolithic population, consistent with a coastal people whose ancestry and diet suggested generations of shoreline habitation, appeared and integrated rapidly with existing communities. Their descendants are traceable in the population that built the earliest historical Sumerian cities. They came from the direction of the Gulf. They arrived within centuries of the flood, and they carried knowledge that transformed the communities they joined. CBS 13532 does not describe a myth about where civilization began. It describes a specific place with specific dimensions at specific coordinates, now sitting beneath 40 meters of water in the northern Persian Gulf. The directional markers still work. The architectural specifications still match the rebuilt temple above water. The population data shows the arrival of coastal survivors. The archaeology confirms the reconstruction. The city built before the flood was real. Its coordinates are still accurate, and somewhere on the floor of the Persian Gulf, beneath water that rose 6,000 years ago and never receded, the original Eridu is still there. The tablet in Philadelphia has been pointing to it for 4,000 years. No one has gone to look.